What a blessing to share the platform with one of my heart sisters. Love divine order. Well, is it just me, or is the world going through a lot of change right now? It seems everybody I talk to is going through some kind of change in their life, some major transition, a move, a relationship, a job, whatever it might be. We are all in the process of change, embracing that and questioning it and sometimes challenging it. Well, if you've been around here the last few weeks, you may have noticed we're going through some change as well. I, of course, am referring to the color of my office walls. Well, and then there's the fact that our beloved minister is leaving, but we're not going to talk about that right now. You know, I was in Iowa last week. My son Austin rows on the KU rowing team, and they were rowing on the Des Moines River, and there's a lot of time in between races, and we were sitting there watching the water, and you know, the water was just kind of gently flowing. It was one of those beautiful sunny days. And then all of a sudden I noticed that, you know, as the current was going along, that here was this red cup that had fallen in the water that was going the opposite direction. So it made me curious, and I got a little closer, and I started to look, and I realized that all the debris and the leaves were all going that direction too. And that perhaps maybe that's the way that the water was running. But for whatever reason, the way it was swirling about and the way the light caught it, it looked like it was going one way when actually it was going the other. And I thought, isn't that kind of like our lives on the spiritual path? That, you know, we're going along one direction, we're not questioning it. We have a plan, sometimes a very elaborate plan. And then all of a sudden, the water starts to turn. And we begin to be tossed about. And sometimes we get afraid because we can't see what's going on as that water is churning up. Sometimes we even feel like we're out of control. I don't think any of us like that feeling. But we start to get these nudges, these urges, these invitations to turn a different direction. Or a change happens in our life and we are forced in another direction. And it brings up our fear at times. And sometimes it gets a little messy because we don't know exactly what's going on. We're confused. We're uncertain. We're stepping into the mystery. Well, I'd like to share with you a story of the first birth that I ever went to, because change is an opportunity for us to birth something new. But sometimes in order to do that, we have to go through a little labor, don't we? Well, I was working as a neonatal intensive care nurse at Children's Mercy for a few years when I'd been invited to help open a new birthing center at a hospital. Well, at Children's Mercy, the babies all came in, nice and neatly wrapped and handed to us. We didn't go to any deliveries. So we spent a few months getting the nursery ready and getting the unit together, and all the drawers were stocked and the cabinets were neat and everything looked beautiful and pristine. It never looked like that again. So we spent 3 months in preparation until the day that we opened. And there we all stood waiting for our first woman to walk in the door. Well, when you open a new birthing center, it's not like there are women lined up outside just waiting for that door to open. So it was a couple days, we just sat around admiring our good work and waiting for something to happen, when suddenly we got a call from the emergency room, a rather panicked call, because they weren't used to having women come through in labor. And they said, there's a woman down here and she's getting ready to deliver. And they got her up to our unit faster than you could believe. So we all scrambled and started to, get our stuff out and prepare everything and get the room ready. The only problem was that it was lunch break. So there was only 2 maternity unit nurses who were on duty at that moment, and one of them was off giving a tour to a couple who had come and wanted to see the birthing center. We couldn't find her. The other one was my friend Jill, who had just gotten out of nursing school, had about 3 months of experience under her belt. There were 2 nursery nurses, myself, who had never been to a birth, and the nurse that I was orienting, who had never stepped foot on the unit. The only one that really had command of the situation was a large German woman who was the OB tech, who began shouting out orders to everybody. Well, why she caught our attention, none of us could understand what she was saying. And of course, in situations like that, there's no time to call the doctor and get the woman's doctor there, so we had to call the resident on call. Again, this is a hospital that doesn't normally do deliveries. So let me just recap. We have a doctor who's never run a delivery. We have a maternity nurse who's fresh out of school. We have myself, who's never been to a delivery, and another nurse who's never stepped foot on the unit. And the only one in the room that knows what's going on, no one can understand. Are you getting the picture here? Complete chaos. And a woman who wants to push. And they're trying to get the monitor on the baby, and at some point they start yelling out, "We're not getting a heart rate." And so panic ensues, and we start to get out all the equipment needed to resuscitate a baby, and at least I know where all that is, and the nurse with me knows how to resuscitate a baby, so together we're ready. When out comes this beautiful 8-pound, pink, crying baby boy. Lovely baby. Before that couple left our unit, they said to us that they couldn't imagine a better delivery experience. It was their first baby. But the point is that sometimes in order to birth a new reality, a new possibility, there's a little bit of chaos going on. We don't always know exactly what to do, but the thing is, we've been prepared. We have been prepared. We may not feel like it. We may have some fear around it, but we have been prepared. But in order for us to be able to welcome that new possibility, we have to let go of what no longer serves us. We have to allow ourselves to turn and follow the current a different way, to let go of beliefs that aren't a part of who we're becoming. In the words attributed to Jesus in the book of Luke, he tells us a parable. No one tears a piece from a new garment and sews it on an old garment. Otherwise, the new will be torn, and the piece from the new will not match the old. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins and will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. But new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. If we're going to have a new, more enlightened, more complex way of being born in our lives, we have to let the old be broken up. We have to be willing to let it go. One of the spiritual masters of our time, John Bon Jovi, said this. Oh, you know he is. How many times have you all listened to Living on a Prayer? That's what I'm talking about. Here's what he said. I think this is very profound. Don't get too comfortable with who you are at any given time. You may miss the opportunity to become who you want to be. Don't get too comfortable with who you are at any given time, or you may miss the opportunity to become who you are meant to be. We cannot fit a new possibility into an old way of being. It doesn't work. We cannot birth a new reality without going through a bit of labor and being willing to surrender. Because you know what? That baby knew what direction it was going. And that mom's body innately knew what to do. And that baby was born despite the chaos that was happening in the room at the time. Irvin Laszlo, founder of systems philosophy and general evolution theory, said that the chaos theory shows us that the evolution of a complex system always involves periods of stability and instability, continuity and discontinuity, order and chaos. He says at the point of chaos, even the smallest fluctuations produce large-scale effects. At the point of change, at the point of the turning of the tide, it is the slightest movement of thought, of intention, of action that creates a large-scale difference. He goes on to say, in periods of relative stability, the consciousness of individuals does not play a decisive role in the behavior of society. A stable social system dampens deviations and isolates the deviants. But when a society reaches the limits of its stability and turns chaotic, it becomes supersensitive, responsive to even small fluctuations, such as changes in values, beliefs, worldviews, and the aspirations of its members. We are these magnificent living organisms that are in a constant state of instability. Gives new meaning to the times that people in your life told you were unstable, doesn't it? It's actually a good thing. Because in that flux that is happening within us, it's a movement of energy. And the more that energy builds towards a change, towards a turning, towards a new possibility, the more that every single prayer, every single intention, every single affirmation, every single action has a more powerful effect, a more widespread effect. And so as we are going through change in our lives, as we're going through change right here in our community, and as we're going through change in our world, we get to decide what effect we want to have. He continues by saying, we are now living in a period of transformation where a new world is struggling to be born. Ours is an era of decision, a window of unprecedented freedom to choose our destiny. If we are aware of the power in our hands, and if we have the will and the wisdom to make use of it, we become masters of our destiny. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, put it this way: to decree with assurance is to establish and fix an ideal in substance. The force behind the decree is invisible, like the promise to be fulfilled at some future time, but it binds with it in visible chains the one who makes it. We have only a slight conception of the strength of the intangible. We compare and measure strength by some strong element in nature. We say strong as steel, but a very little thought will convince us that mental affirmations are far stronger than the strongest visible thing in the world. See, there's a power at work in us that's not tangible. It's not something we can hold in our hands. It exists within an invisible realm that is tapped into through our thoughts, through our intentions, through our prayers, through our consciousness. The Hopi elders got together and offered us this invitation. They said, there is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore, and they will be torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our heads above the water. And I say, see who is there and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are at a choice point. We are at a choice point in our lives. We're at a choice point here in our church community. We're at a choice point in our world. And we get to decide what impact we want to have. We get to decide the thoughts and beliefs we're going to put in that energy field. So our choice is to give in to our fear, to stay comfortable, to keep playing small, or to claim our divine inheritance. Because magnificence is built into our spiritual DNA. We are constantly being evolved and drawn to that which is greater, that which serves our good, that which allows us to truly express as the Christ on this planet, to be who we came here to be. We are at a choice point. So what are you going to choose today? Are you going to choose to play small? Or are you going to choose to swim with the big fish? Are you going to choose to give in to your fear? Or are you going to choose to run to possibility? Are you going to choose to stay limited? Or are you going to choose to understand that you were created in the image and likeness of God, and in that, anything and everything is possible? For your lives, for our community, for our world. But it takes each and every one of us with that intention to be a part of the change, to make a difference, to express as our fully alive self. So let me ask you this. Are you in? Yes. Are you in? Yes. Are you in? Yes. Then let's go change the world. God bless you.